Morning. I'm very happy to be addressing you all on the 72nd Republic Day. The Indian Constitution is something which every Indian should be very proud of. The painstaking work of Dr. Ambedkar, where he covered every aspect, did an enormous amount of research before he came up with the doctrine. On this day, I salute him. And even as I salute him, I would like to bring forth all your attention to something we desperately need to do now. And COVID, per se, has provided us with an opportunity to do so. What does India require now? India requires freedom from cronyism and corruption. Now, let me get to the genesis of this. Given the fact that for hundreds of years we've had invaders, and the last known invader was the British. And if you were to just look at how India was the most successful nation in the world, the most vibrant, the most dynamic, the richest in economy, economy-wise, the cultural apotheosis of the world, in every way, India was at the forefront. Now, how did we degrade to this level where we are not a great force to reckon with in any aspect? It all harks back to our pedagogy. The hoary India of the past had a very great system, Guru Sishya Parampara, wherein the student, the scholar, after 13 years of pupillage under the Guru, went to other schools, came back and debated his master first. The whole credo was on creative thinking, and it was on ways to share knowledge, enriched mindsets. This led to every aspect of our lives, from entrepreneurship to the economy, to the ecology, to culture, to socio-anthropological issues. That's why we were the richest and the most famous and the nation of the world. But somewhere down the line, especially with the British coming into India, they destructed this pedagogical system, brought in what was loosely called the step-up approach, and eventually it led to just one thing: creating clerks out of Indians. Unfortunately, 72 years after the Constitution was ushered in, we still have not jettisoned that clerical mindset. But the silver lining in the cloud is there. A few months ago rather, the incumbent Prime Minister of India brought in a new educational policy. While several educationalists in the country criticized it, they actually did it out of their clerical mindsets, because this is the first attempt in independent India to change our pedagogical systems. The new educational policy, if one were to get into the substance of it, reeks of that. It actually enables the Indian system to get back to the old system, wherein creative learning as opposed to rote learning is patronized. And this is a welcome move, because this would ensure that our minds get creative, we get to be an entrepreneurial nation, we get to be a $5 trillion economy. Now, and in the process, we would have to remove the albatrosses of corruption and cronyism. Now, what is corruption? Corruption, prima facie, is simply an act of bribing, and in its more advanced form, it could be certain forms of intellectual dishonesty. All this was alien to the Indian system. In fact, the servant leadership models of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and Krishna Deva Raya were all subject centric. There was no corruption in this country. Now, how do we eradicate this? Well, the first good step has been taken via the new education policy, which will lead to enlightened minds and enlightened existence per se. And in the process, we will have to ensure that the ills of the wrong are done away with. As an exemplar in the executive, we need to get into initiatives as far as our bureaucracy goes, which are progressive. As an indicative archetype, and any bureaucrat, when he's recruited, should be put to 2 or 3 years to various departments. His aptitude should be studied, and thereafter, for the next 35, 40 years, in the same department. This would make career professionals. Unfortunately, today, the system is one which actually ensures that they don't become professionals in any field. Rolling stones gather no moss, and therefore, given the short tenure of 2 or 3 years in lucrative departments, tend to be corrupt or patronize cronyism. So this is one way to reform the system. Another way is by entrepreneurial initiatives. As an exemplar, a corporation in a large city in India does not need to be manned by bureaucrats. It could be completely privatized. Right from garbage cleaning to healthcare can be outsourced. A revenue stream can be prognosticated, and when the professionals do meet the expectations in terms of revenue streams, they could be given a fee from that. This will professionalize and eradicate corruption as well. So there are ways and means to do this, but the first good step has been taken with the new education policy. And corruption and cronyism, when they are done away with, India will certainly get back to being the numero uno nation in the world today. In the future. In the future. But the first step has been taken today when we got in the new educational policy, which I think is a seminal step. Now, in terms of economics, liberalization, actually was a fantastic step by the late Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, because he realized that India had a lot of inequalities, and it was a direct shot at bridging the inequality divide. Demonetization was another welcome step because it was another direct shot at bridging the inequality divide. So, and with this progressive educational policy, the inequalities will come down. Now, it is better to have n number of billionaires than just a handful, because corporate egalitarianism can take over, and the trickle-down effect will happen. Now, this would translate to compassionate capitalism, this would translate to inclusive growth, and this would translate into empowering stakeholderism, this would translate into empowering the citizens. So, this is the way forward. The credo of India has always been Satyameva Jayathe. Let us all today take the pledge to uphold the credo of India. Satyameva Jayathe, let truth alone triumph. We are the most ancient of civilizations. And as Sri Aurobindo said, we are the guru of nations and the physician of the human soul in its profounder maladies. Let us live up to the words of the great seer Sri Aurobindo. Let us work, each one of us, let us take a pledge today to be agents of change, to say no to corruption, to say no to cronyism, to uphold meritocratic methods, and to do our best in whatever field we are for the greatness, to achieve the greatness of India, to ensure that India once again becomes the numero uno nation amongst the comity of nations. And believe me, the world order itself will become egalitarian when India becomes the numero uno country, because India has always had this wonderful attitude of live and let live. With that, we will ensure a harmonious existence amongst the comity of nations. We were the number one in the world in terms of ecological protection, And again, that would get a great impetus. So thank you very much. Jai Hind.